Hello, welcome to another episode of Kube Tuesday. In a prior episode, I had shown creating a config map from files with like a Python script and maybe a data file, and we could put those together into a configuration mapping, a config map in Kubernetes. And so have an Amazon EKS cluster here running with a config map it created, 6 days ago apparently. And so I'm going to take a look at that in full YAML form here. And so we have the data up here with a job script and a prompt listed there. So just a text file and a Python script. Now, can we run a Python script, which may not refer to that prompt.txt there initially, just with a hello world in the script, but can we run with an existing container image without making a custom container image? Can we create a job that'll run that Python script? Let's take a look. So in this episode of Kube Tuesday, we're going to do create of a job, not a cron job. We'll do that later. And we could call this job runner. And I'm going to use an image of Python here, version 3.14. Do a -slim variety of that. Now, we're not going to do this right now. I'm not going to actually run the job at this moment. I'm going to use a dry run option just here in kubectl on this machine. I'm going to output that as YAML. But here's the thing. I don't want to just use that image straight up. I want to specify here the command part. So the command we want to run is Python with /script/jobscript.py. Now how do we get that jobscript.py and maybe the prompt.txt into the container that's got a generic container image? Well, volume mounts. Let's take a look at this. So I'm going to go and modify this command at the bottom just a little bit more. And just job runner. Hang on, let me just add on kind of some spaces here to space this out so it looks kind of clean. So go to this kubectl, create job runner, image there, and I'm going to save that in the job runner job YAML. And I know job runner config map I used earlier. Now I'm using job runner job there. And what did we get? So go and edit that job runner job YAML there. And so here we have a setup of a Kubernetes job where we have the typical metadata up here in the spec. This has a template here. And in the template, we have a metadata section there. And inside the metadata, just creation timestamp, nothing too exciting there. Then we have a container here. So we've got that Python image that we wanted. We have the command specified that we want to run Python of /script/jobscript.py. Problem is, that jobscript.py does not exist in this Python image, as far as I know. I don't think it does. So how do we not create a custom container image? We could do that, but why would we do that for just a few files, like a small Python script, text file, some images, some like graphic images, small things, right? Why would we make a whole new container image unnecessarily? If we can reuse an existing container image, maybe this one even, then can we just inject the script we want to run? Yeah, we can. Let's take a look. So in here, we are going to go down here. Whoops, let me disappear here for a sec. We're going to go down in here and go to inside of the pod spec. So we could go after the containers, after the restart policy there. We could go up at the top here, right here. We could put in volumes. So volumes and containers. I'm going to put it down at the bottom though, just for kicks down here. So we're going to have volumes in here. And we can add in then the name of a volume that we want. We could call it script. And this is the exciting part. We're going to go and bring that in from the config map that we've created in the same namespace. And the name of that config map, as I had shown a few minutes ago, is job runner. Great. So that gets the config map available in the pod. So if it's available in the pod, let's see, this cup represents a pod, and I have, not that one, we have this container is our job runner container. We want to have running Python, cool. But now we want to take and we want the volume of data to be mapped in there as well. So we put the volume now in the pod. But what we haven't done is connect the container and that volume. What we need to do that is a volume mount. So let's take a look at that. Inside the container definition, so notice the indentation in YAML. If you're using JSON, there's curly braces to follow, but it's just indentation here in YAML. So in here, we have the command and so on. In here, resources, not using there. But I'm going to add in here into the container volume mounts in here. Now, the name that I want to use has to match this one that I used down at the bottom. So in here, I'm going to say the name of the first volume out. I'm only going to have one. It's called script. That exactly must match what we called the volume itself there. So I'm saying mount that volume of data, which again came from a config map called job runner. So we're then going to go here, and where do we want that? Inside of the container. We have that generic Python 3.14 slim container image. Okay, that's fine. But then the mount path we're going to put our config map volume is /script right there. Some of you might be tempted to say /scripts. That's fine, but just I had referenced it earlier here as /script, and I want the job script from the config map to appear under this particular path. All right? So that's it. Really not an incredible difference here with this job runner -job right here. So we can just go, we could delete things like the status and the restart policy and the creation timestamp, other things that aren't being used uniquely, but that's probably sufficient. What we did is we created a baseline job. All we've changed in there, compare if we just did a diff of the job runner base and the one I just created there. Sorry, I created the job runner base beforehand and didn't do those edits. So the only two edits we have done relative to this command here is, I mean, we did it. You were here with me, right? I was just the one doing the typing. And we added the volume mounts inside the container, and then we added the volumes out at the pod level. Notice, again, the indentation of those. All right? So let's do it. Let's actually run it. kubectl apply of the file job runner job, but we're going to put it over in the job-ns namespace. So go and apply that. Well, I don't know what just happened over here, so let's go and check it out over here. So if we can go and take a peek at what's running over there, so get ConfigMaps over in the job namespace. Whoa, hang on, extra spaces. Space, the final frontier. Sorry, I didn't mean to type that. Kubetuesday? I don't know what that is. kubectl, kube control, or kubectl, as I pronounce it. And yeah, we got the job runner there. That's cool. Do we have a job over there? We have a job. It's completed. 1 of 1 completions. Hooray! We ran a job. Only took 9 seconds. The age, that was 37 seconds ago. So now, do we have any pose? Sorry, any pods? We'll spell it out. So we have a pod. That pod completed. So 0 of 1 are running. 0 of 1 are ready. So it ran. It's done. All right. So the pod ran for the job. It didn't get terminated partway through and the job didn't have to restart a second pod. So there's only one there. Okay, it's got a little unique code on the end. The uniqueification there, there's got that hyphen MTKML there in this case. So just some unique code there. So the job controller said, oh, I got this job, I need a pod to do it. So it did it. So now what we could do is we could go look at the logs and look at the logs for either the pod itself directly, or we can look at the job since it only ran one pod to do its work with a one container in it. Great, we could look at that. So the logs there, it said, hello world, isn't that amazing? Do you remember earlier that the ConfigMap that I'd created had that as the script? So if all we did was change the ConfigMap without changing the definition of the pod or the job, once we'd done the volume mounts, but we just changed the ConfigMap and then run the job again, a job with the same kind of definition, then we would have a different script if we've modified the config map. So let's go back and look at the config map the contents there. We could generate this from files, from data values, however we want, or modify the manifest directly if you care about that. JobScript.py, all we would need to do is change this script to something else, and then we run a job and we'd have different results. Or if we had a script which was referring to various files like this prompt.txt, and we change those other files in the config map, and we run a pod, maybe through a job, that is now based on that change, we get the results, right? So running jobs, not rocket surgery, but certainly something novel if you're just used to deployments and stateful sets and replica sets and daemon sets maybe. But jobs, cron jobs, a little more complicated. Running with like Amazon EKS, integrated in with Amazon SageMaker AI and maybe SageMaker HyperPod, which then can deploy SageMaker jobs into a Kubernetes environment in EKS. Then we'll look at some more details of the jobs. But there's a little bit more I want to show you before I get into HyperPod with you. So let me know any topics you're curious about. But hopefully building up a config map, a generic job description here, then we can put more details in there if we want. But as an intermediate step, we could also make a custom container image that has like a Boto 3 or NumPy, other kinds of cool packages that may or may not be in the baseline image that I used originally here. And then our scripts could be a little bit more elaborate than, well, certainly than this one, I hope. So let me know what you want to run in Kubernetes, in jobs, in cron jobs, or deployments, daemon sets, stateful sets, however. This has been another episode of Kubetuesday. I hope you've enjoyed it.